Neng Xiong, ooh, that's loud. Cú sẽ dễ hơn tờ bên lung trong sinh phao nó là what the mayor elect cho áo phẳng nên có trâu nó cứ yêu lưu nó lưu ý lên tôi mà thích chi for your swear go in what the next mayor of St. Paul cú trong sáng tôi hạ bên lưu cho nên nó what the keynote the shima cú sáng ta những program những để hát để cú chỉ sáng hàng lần đầu hát the shima cú sáng lưu hạ nhau trong trong chat rồi cho lên cho tôi trong nó những trong cứ cú mong đợi yang cú trong xã hiện, hôm nay cú biết cú sang introduce cú tôi bây giờ là cú tự chỉ nó hoa thành công hơn, và cú also asked that representative, I mean a council member Neng Xiong, nung chú cú nói chuyện nó ha. The reason why I thought it was very important to have council member Yang with me today was that, you know, how Jay mà thấy cú how look a bit plan over politics, những người yang cú nhỏ hình. And that in an environment in which it is difficult to have political courage, that Councilmember Yang was one of the few people who was willing to say that we needed change. And that doesn't mean that we are unhappy or have a falling out with the incumbents or the people who are around us. But it's that when we see that we can do better and that there are people who can bring new ideas to the table, that we have the political courage to stand up with them. And so I want to greatest gratitude for Councilmember Yang for doing that for me and being able to stand up in front of a city, our capital city, and saying that she would stand behind me in this work. And so thank you so much, Councilmember Yang. But I think that is what makes our Hmong people really special. I would say is the most courageous group of people that I've ever met. That even when against all odds we are asked to stand up, that we do. When we think about when the Americans came to us and asked for us to fight in this war with them, we had no guarantees of what would be the outcome for us. No one told us that, you know, the strategy of our potential possibility of winning. But we knew that as Hmong people who had left China and did not want to assimilate and be a part of that, that freedom and democracy and being able to choose to live the lives that we want for ourselves and our families is at the core of who we are as Hmong people. And even though we had never really understood those words that America very often carried with them and leads us in this country, we knew what it felt like to not have liberty, to not have justice, to live in a country in which we could not own land, to not have any records of us. You know, when I was explaining to someone that had I stayed in Laos, I didn't have a birth certificate when I was born. And we didn't have a written language back in the old country. So when I was done, and you know, that there would be no record of my existence. And I think that as a people to understand the importance of having us recorded, that the contributions that we make, the ability to live a kind of life in which that what we do matters, that have been erased in all countries that we have been in, and to be continually oppressed and asked to assimilate and to give up our own identity, who we are. That when America offered us the opportunity to be able to fight for freedom and liberty and justice, to have something that might belong to us, that our ancestors, my grandfather who was a colonel in the secret war, that they are the ones that stood up and said that this was an important thing for us to fight for, and so they did. And so as I stand before all of you, it is not because of me as Kaoly, Vang or as the next mayor of the city of St. Paul. I stand as the daughter, as the granddaughter of my ancestors who fought for us to be here, and that it is their sacrifice that brought us here. And I'll just leave you with one last word, and that for us to make sure we carry that with us in all that we do. And in this last word, I shared this story at another event, but when people look at my logo and our lit pieces, they often see that as like, you know, young people tell me that it looks cool, and it was really like, it was very hip, and it was very Mandani-esque. But the truth is that we were inspired by change. But if you look really closely at my logo and at the lit pieces that we sent out, the border is a bit like Hmong Hanya, that my grandmother was like, but she gave me two because I always believe that it's because my grandmother liked me the most. and that it was that her baby carrier that she gave me. And if you look at the top of the baby carrier, the border of that is the border of all of my literature. And even in the name of my name offset in what looks like just shadows, it's actually, even if you look at like one of the Hmong outfits, but the borders of the Lanyana, it has different colors lining itself. And why did that matter to me? It mattered to me because I wasn't just running a race. I looked at all of the women that came before me, who we asked as our men were fighting in the war, that it is our women that carried us, that carried our children. That there were stories of women, when I think about my friend Botao Arabi's story about her mom taking the children and fleeing with them, that our men were fighting, and so the women had to carry all of the children and bring them forward. And when I think about the strength of our mothers, who their stories are never told, and so when I think about what the race that I was running, I think about the fact of that I heard that our city was struggling, that St. Paul wasn't doing well, and that businesses couldn't open up their doors, and people who needed basic city services were not receiving them. And all I could think about was that it was my turn to take the lanyanda, the baby carrier, and to strap all of our residents that were needing help, that were needing something better, and to put them on my back and to bring them forward with me. And so I want us all to remember, as I think about the 50 years that we've been here, that it is our turn now to carry everyone else for these next 50 years, that it is your turn to find your baby carrier and see who needs you to carry them. Because that is the strength of who we are as Hmong people, is that we never leave anybody behind. And that that is the strength of Hmong people. And so we should never forget that at the heart of who we are and our successes came because of that. That none of us went to school without our grandmothers and our mothers feeding us and taking care of us, while our fathers were working multiple jobs in order to keep food on the table. That it is the entire family, that when people didn't have homes, that we all would live together in multi-generational households until we could make it, until we could get the next person. It was when businesses, no one would give us loans. What did we do? We all came together and created co-ops before there was a such thing, before we knew there was a word like that. And we carried each other. And so remember to look around you and carry those people with you. And I would say one more last thing before, because I think that oftentimes elected officials, like doctors, lawyers, or engineers, we're always the one that get recognition. But the truth is that there's so many people in fields that never get recognized. Whether you are in education, or you are in the sciences, or you are in a sports field. Like Sunisa Lee is our pride and joy, but we have people who are golfers, who are pro golfers. We have people who are playing pro soccer. We have people who have achieved in fields that we can't even think about. We have a Hmong woman who works at NASA. There's just so much that we have done, and for us not to forget all of our artists and all of our storytellers and all of our writers. But those people are just as important, not just those of us who earn leadership roles because we run elections that are very visible. And the reason why this is important for me is that I don't think that, like, when I look at my own siblings, I have two sisters who were some of the first engineers in this country. One of my sisters was probably one of the first Hmong women to get her master's degree in engineering at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And that same year, she had a friend who happened to be Hmong as well. They were the first two Hmong people to graduate with their master's of engineering from the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And it was very interesting because one of my cousins now is a PhD at Madison, and he was studying Hmong women in STEM. And he didn't know that some of the first women who achieved these degrees were in his own family. And so I want us to remember to take all of these people and their stories with us, and that as we celebrate 50 years, that we think about who might be missing from the table, because it is our responsibility to lift up all of these stories, because Hmong advancement is not just because of those of us who get seen every day, but it is because of all of those unseen people who are holding positions in corporations, in education, in arts and in culture that continue to keep all of parts of our story alive. And so thank you so much for letting me be a part of this today. Thank you for giving me the honor of having been a state elected official for the last 7 years, but also supporting in me in this next step in becoming the next mayor of the city of St. Paul. Thank you.
以上只有我做了俾杜 Mayor-elect 高鐵去呀。